When I first met my to-be wife, Michelle, I fell head over heels immediately. I can't tell you the whole story. I just don't have time. But it was only a few days after we met that I asked her if she'd marry me. And she laughed and said, "No, maybe in a very, very long time, but no, I don't even know you." Well, more than a year later, we were both college students at Dixie College in St. George, Utah, and we were walking on the sidewalk right in front of the St. George Temple one Sunday evening, holding hands, visiting as we walked. And Michelle turns to me and says, "Do you remember that question you asked me a long time ago?" And I said, "What?" She said, "A long time ago, when we first started dating." And I said, "Will you marry me?" And she said, "Yes." and so I love the temples. I got engaged right here on the sidewalk of the St. George Temple, and then a few months later we were married in the Seattle Temple for time and for all eternity. And what a blessing that has been in my life. Well, this week I'm going to include some wonderful quotes from Elder Bednar and from President Nelson on temple covenants and the covenants that we make there. I loved Elder Bednar's recent talk where he talked about the things that we can talk about in the temple. And then he gave us the link to temples.churchofjesuschrist.org and reminded us that there are all of these resources. The 5 covenants that we make in the temple are all black and white. There they are. They're right in print. And we ought to be teaching those and talking about each one and making sure that we understand it and making sure that we're really living it. I've been a bishop a couple of times, and I don't know when I figured this out, but I used to, would sit down and before we'd start with the official temple recommend questions, which I love that President Nelson gave us in the last conference and just said, here they are. Here are the 15 questions. And we got those questions. But I used to say before we'd start the interview, if they've already had their temple recommend and they were coming back in for a renewal, I would say, can you tell me what the covenants are that we've made in the temple? There are only 5 of them. Can you name them? Do you know what they are? And a couple of responses one is, can we talk about that? We're not in the, can you ask me that? And I've thought, well, there are things I'm under covenant not to talk about outside the temple, but the actual covenants we talk about all the time. And then the second question was, let's see. Well, there's this one, and I think there's that one. Rarely could someone name for me, boom, 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 boom. These are the 5 covenants that I've made. And then the thought started to cross my mind. If we can't even remember the 5 covenants we've made, how can we possibly be keeping them? Accidentally, maybe. Elder Bednar's talk was enlightening, and the church website, temples.churchofjesuschrist.org, is filled with resources, videos, printed talks, and each one of those 5 covenants has links to what the prophets have said they mean. We need to be studying and learning what the covenants are that we make in the temple, because we can't keep them if we don't know what they are. And so that's my invitation this week. It's just a short, sweet invitation. Spend some time with the temple recommend questions that President Nelson just reminded us of, and with the temples.churchofjesuschrist.org site, and exploring the covenants and ordinances that we make in the temple, and learning how to appropriately talk about those outside of the temple, keeping sacred things sacred, but discussing and understanding the covenants that we make. Again, you can't keep a covenant if you don't understand it. So let's make a commitment this week to take Elder Bednar's advice, to take President Nelson's advice with the temple recommend questions, and genuinely study what my covenants are, and then plead with the Lord Help me keep them. Help me be a better person. Help me keep my promises, because I know you don't break yours. That's still true. He doesn't break his promises.